If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today and we have another show lined for y'all. We have a returning guest. We have a good friend of the show, Luaskya, Nonon. She is the CEO and founder of Equity Principal Consulting. She has a book that's coming out, a brand new one that's coming out Monday. It's Embracing the Future of Work. It's not just going to be a deep dive for people to really dive into what is something that she's discovering that is going to be not just crucial for your organization, but crucial for employees. This is something that I hope you will appreciate because she is someone that's on top of her game. While we are in a fast-moving pace of technology and AI, she is not behind. She is right on top of it. So we're going to first welcome her to the show and say thank you for clearing your calendar today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate you even offering this opportunity for me to share this platform with you. So thank you.
A lot of people know the buzzwords, right? We know what's going on with technology. We know what's going on with inclusion and making sure that we're there for everybody, all walks of life, diversity. That when you kind of thought about this project before you started writing, what were some of the things that you were researching to kind of glue it all together?
One of the major challenges that I encountered when I started thinking about this book is just meeting numerous people and finding out that they really didn't have an understanding about DEI. They knew the acronym. Some didn't even know the acronym, but others did. They knew the acronym. They were familiar with it. They didn't know what it meant. And these were corporate leaders that were in high-paying jobs in decision-making positions, and they didn't understand why it matters, what it meant, and how it impacts their people. And then there were those people that were curious about this work of inclusivity and creating these inclusive environments, but then also didn't quite know how to go about doing it because there was some resistance within the organization. And then there are the groups of folks that we encounter now that are very vocal about being anti-DEI, but also don't know what that even means. And so they're not willing to even entertain the concept of DEI. So when I started this journey, I really wanted to take a step back and think about what do those people need? Those people that are unfamiliar about what this acronym means, those people that are doing the work but are facing resistance internally, how could I support them to maybe give them a resource that they could utilize with those resistors that they're encountering every day? And then how do I help those people that are curious about the work or maybe really want to do something to help their people but don't know what is it that they can do? I decided that this book would be that answer for them. So Embracing the Future Work, I identify 15 actionable strategies that leaders could use to help them create that inclusive workplace as well as foster a high-performing organization.
A lot of workplaces have outdated systems when it comes to how they are holding their employees, not just feet to the fire, but sometimes things get stagnant in how we approach things. What are some of the things that your book has discovered that will help these organizations make that new switch?
I think to the point that you mentioned about systems being stagnant, organizational leaders need to take a step back and really assess those systems. And they need to acknowledge that the systems that they're utilizing in their everyday workplaces are not systems that are truly accommodating and working for the workforce that they have today. The workforce is multi-generational. There are multiple identities that are represented in the workplace, and those systems don't consider the individual that is working in the offices to do the work to bring the success that these leaders are hoping to achieve. And so in my book in particular, I try to help these leaders understand that the way in which you really create an organization, a workplace that prioritizes your people is by taking a step back and looking at your system to see how are they supporting your people? Are they supporting your people? And if they are supporting your people, are they supporting all of your people? Are they providing and affording benefits and services to all of your employees and all of the different identities that are represented in your workplace?
When you look at inclusive leadership, what are some ways that organizations will, instead of worrying about the hot buzzing topics that we hear on news cycles, what are ways that they can implement inclusive leadership, and what would that look like when they take that charge?
One of the things that I talk specifically about is really taking the time to ask your employees what they need. Not every organization is going to implement these DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies the same way because their organization is made up of different people. So to be an inclusive leader, you must first recognize that the people that are doing the work, they are the ones who need to help you determine what they need in order to create the environment that is inclusive for them, that will enable them to come to work ready and willing to do the job to realize the success that you hope for. And so I write in the book a process by which leaders can ask questions, really distinct questions of their employees to really understand what are their needs when they come to the workplace, and then identify the strategies that they can implement to really support those needs of your employee. But it starts with what I term as VOC, voice of the customer, or rather voice of the employee. Voice of the customer is a term that's used in the sales environment. And so I flipped that a little bit and are encouraging leaders to ask for, obtain the voice of your employees so that you can support them in the ways that they need to be supportive.
You're also a successful attorney. When you hear other words being floated around there as merit, and we hear about DEI versus merit, DEI versus peace is what some people are trying to say now. What do you feel is a combination of both? And how can organizations implement, of course, self-responsibility, but also, hey, you might be different, but we're going to also see you through this process?
I love that question, particularly because I have coined the phrase whenever I hear the pushback about DEI not having anything to do with merit, I push back with my little phrase that says DEI equals access plus merit minus privilege, right? That's what DEI is. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion ultimately is intended to create an environment where those things are present. And in the systems that most organizations currently utilize to operate their business, they rest on merit. They rest on privilege, rather, and they don't really focus on merit. They tend to confuse merit and privilege. And what I am trying to help them understand is that if you focus on implementing diversity, equity, inclusion strategies to create an environment where you're valuing people first and the humanity of the people that are doing the work in your workplace, and granting them opportunities to come to work, to be in an environment where they can be supported, and to help them in any way that they may individually need to succeed in the organization, you then are able to identify people that have the skill set and capability and have the merit to be there, as well as giving them the opportunities that they can thrive in that organization to then ultimately bring the success that every organization is trying to achieve. And I say that often because I do realize that these leaders are in business to make money. And as much of a humanitarian as I am, where I really am focused on prioritizing humanity of the individual, having a people first culture, I do recognize that many leaders are all about the dollars and cents and what the return on their investment is. And I am stressing upon them the importance of prioritizing people first And when you do that and you recognize the humanity of the individuals that are within your workforce, you can ultimately realize the return on the investment and the financial successes that you would like to achieve.
Once again, you listen to Refocused Radio and watching this online. If you want to learn about everything that she's talking about, definitely connect with her on her website. It's right there on the ticker tape. But if you're watching this online, it's super easy. Just go head over to, can you give us a website?
I'm at equityprinciple.com.
Awesome. And if someone wants to get this book that is coming out, by the time you see this, it'll be up tomorrow. Today is May 9th. It'll be up before Monday. Once it's published, where can people expect to be able to find the book outside the website, but will be on Amazon and other places?
It will be on Amazon and Ingram Sparks, and Ingram Sparks distributes to most local bookstores, and it will also be available on Barnes & Nobles later next week.
So let's dive into the part of technology that you cover, because in the book, you also emphasize the responsibility that we must leverage when we're using AI from an ethical standpoint. What are some of the things that you discovered in writing about this whole section in your book on technology?
So I read today that a very large organization has decided to displace hundreds of their HR workers with the intention of replacing those HR workers with artificial intelligence, and they've reallocated the funding for those employees to hire other employees. I raised that point because many organizations and leaders in particular are jumping at the chance to incorporate artificial intelligence into their workforce. And I think I challenge whether they're doing it and really considering the impact of that, because AI in particular is a device, it's a tool that is developed by humans, right? And we are putting AI in places to make decisions oftentimes about humans. And so if you've got a tool that's developed by a human, we all as humans have biases, we have prejudices of our own, and we as humans are able to recognize those prejudices and those biases and maybe mitigate those internally if you've gone through appropriate training. But an AI tool doesn't have that capability. So if you've built that bias and those prejudices within the tool, it only is going to perpetuate those inequities because the tool doesn't know how to do it on its own. And so as corporate leaders, when we go out there and purchase AI tools and implement it into our organization, we are creating or effectively perpetuating bias in our systems. And that's problematic because if our goal is to create a truly inclusive and equitable workplace, you're not going to be able to do that with an AI tool unless you take appropriate measures to mitigate and identify the biases in the tool, ideally before you implement it in your organizational systems, but there are ways to do it after the fact, but it's that much harder.
And when you see how organizations can enhance decision-making without compromising employee trust, what are some strategies that you see can position them to do just that?
So AI is like any other technology that we've experienced as adults in this day and age. We have seen and are very familiar that technology often displaces people in positions and jobs that they have. And so as we look to artificial intelligence becoming more prevalent in our workplaces, I believe it's incumbent upon leaders to take a step back before pushing AI within the organization and upskill their employees, offer them artificial intelligence training, offer them ways in which they can become experts in AI, maybe in a way that they've never even considered. Attempting to leverage your resources because the people within your organization are very familiar with the ways it works and all of the systems and all of the things that are not going well within your organization. And so they can leverage that knowledge on top of obtaining AI literacy and maybe even AI governance skills to help you, organizational leaders, implement artificial intelligence within your organization in a more ethical and responsible manner. And if if leaders take that initiative, then I think we can be utilizing and leveraging AI in a more ethical and responsible way than the ways in which I'm seeing many leaders just push it out there without taking the time to really assess the impact of our AI on their organization, on their employees, as well as on their customer base. They may be utilizing the AI tool or having output from the AI tool that is going to impact their personal lives.
Once again, if you want to go to our website, go to equityprinciple.com. Get ready for Monday, because Monday, this will be available for you. Get the new book, literally hot off the press right now, be on the show today to break this news. When you think about talent and culture, a lot of nightmares for organizations is to retain employees, to keep them long term, especially if they're a person, an individual that seems to be really the glue to organization as far as being a rock star, rare talent. When you think about talent and culture, you mentioned that you have 15 strategies in the book to help understand what some actionable things that people can take for their teams. Which of the 15 strategies in the book do you feel is most immediately important for people to take action on?
So I think when we talk about retaining employees, I think one of the actionable strategies that I talk about is considering the impact of coaching for your employees. I don't think that leadership coaching is part of learning and development in as many organizations as I'd like to see them. And oftentimes I see that there are high performing employees or individuals that have been individual contributors initially, but then they've been moved to a management position and they never managed people before, ever. But now they have this responsibility to manage people because they were a top performer as an individual contributor. I think that the mistake leaders make is by not offering those individuals coaching so that they can help them to really understand the skills that they need to obtain in order to be a high performer in their management role or in a role that has greater responsibilities, as well as coaching can help them really understand the ways in which to navigate the politics sometimes in corporate spaces that they may not have had a reason to because they may have been in an individual contributor role. And so when organization leaders in particular promote someone to a new position or change their role in some way and they've not supported them by giving them coaching, people tend to have a negative response to that because they're not getting the support. And then oftentimes if they're not performing at the level that they once performed at, that got them the job, then management is also looking at them with a little bit of a side eye and saying, what's going on here? Did you really have the skills to do the job? And it's not that the person may not have had the skills, but they haven't been given the support. So I encourage leaders to really consider multiple ways in which they can support their employees to do the job to the level that they need them to do the job. And one of the things that I think is most beneficial is offering leadership coaching to all of their employees. Most times corporations reserve leadership coaching for their senior, most executive teams, and or it's given to them when there's someone on that team that's not behaving well. If they've got a leader that is has gotten many complaints, but they're not ready to terminate that leader, they may offer them leadership coaching services. And I think that's a misplacement of funds. I think that the funds are better suited for a first line manager or someone that is really within the company and wanting to do good work, but they just need more support. That's one thing that I think will be really helpful. And it's an actionable strategy that I mentioned in my book.
When you think about hidden risks that are there when there is no investing in culture, what are some of the things that you see will limit the growth of an organization that doesn't invest in culture transformation?
So I know that today we talk a lot about the future of work, but the future of work is today. Like it's happening right now. And there's a lot going on in the world today that is encouraging some leaders to not advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion and to continue doing things the way they've been doing things. And if that's the perspective that a leader takes, that leader, that organization, and likely that company is not going to thrive in the next 10 to 15 years. The population of the workforce is changing, and those individuals, that very diverse population of employees, are going to demand environments where they can not only enter, but feel that they are included, feel that they have an opportunity to really thrive and be successful, do some dignified work. Also, be in organizations that have an alignment of values. As much as organizations are seeking to hire new people, those same individuals are also interviewing those organizations. They want to know that they're working for an organization that has an alignment of values. And if your values don't align with the employees that you're seeking, those employees may not stay long. Those employees may not even become employees, and they may choose to not accept your offer. And so those are the detriments that are at risk if organizations don't really step into this idea of creating that inclusive workplace culture and prioritizing their people. Having a people-first culture enables organizations to realize the success, but it's a long game because you have to create the environment so that the employees can have the opportunities to then thrive and then ultimately realize the success that these leaders seek.
You listen on Refocused Radio, watching us online. I'm talking to our guest, Luaskya Nonon. She is the CEO and founder of Equity Principal Consulting. And you can get her book that's coming out on Monday, Embracing the Future of Work. That is going to be available anywhere you get a book. When you think about the also impact of the performance of how employees are expected to operate for an organization, how do you believe organizations can balance the performance expectations without sacrificing being authentic with their support for their employees' mental health space?
Performance is interesting in that the ways in which organizations measure performance is somewhat outdated, especially those organizations that are incorporating artificial intelligence within the workspace. When you think about how artificial intelligence and AI-powered tools are intended to support and maybe even enable employees to move faster or do things more efficiently, you've got to really assess the ways in which you're now going to measure performance. And I don't think, as I've mentioned before, that leaders have really thought about the impact of AI when it's embedded in an organization and how performance, as an example, should be measured differently. Oftentimes, leaders take a very short-sighted view of how things should be implemented and fall back on what's worked in the past. But in all honesty, the systems that are currently utilized in the workplace today are not systems that are intended to support the employees of today. And so there really needs to be a revamping, a redesigning of the systems that are currently being utilized, especially in light of the implementation of artificial intelligence, and especially in light of the need for inclusive workplace cultures, so that the three together, the individual, DEI, and also AI, can come together, and employees and management, rather, can really look at the coalescence of the three and how best can we work together to realize the success that we want in an organization.
Last question is, we think about politics. Politics can sometimes twist certain facts to cater to certain narratives.
Yeah.
You think of black and white business, no pun intended. What you are a CEO yourself, what are some things that you feel leaders can do a better job opening a dialogue of communication on these topics instead of just catering to their own narrative that they want to display?
Yeah. As I mentioned, one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because I really wanted to dispel some of the misinformation and disinformation, that which is intentional as well as that which is mistaken information. I believe that, particularly in the environment that we are all living in, where there's such an anti-DEI sentiment, it's more so because people just don't understand what it is and the values of DEI. And I believe that once leaders who are truly people-centered, maybe they don't use the vernacular, the language that I'm using, but the leaders who value the humanity of their people and their workforce, if they would take a moment to have the conversations to really understand how all of this is impacting their people and how it's impacting how their employees show up, they then can do a better job of supporting their people. And in all honesty, most leaders may not be equipped to have those conversations. And for that, I would suggest that they seek out a consultant, me maybe, to get the support that they need to have these conversations, because there is risk that they could present more harm for their employees if they're not careful in the ways in which they conduct these conversations. But you have to have these conversations internally, really understand how best to support your individuals, because these leaders in particular, as we all are, tend to sometimes be in an echo chamber where we're only hearing the same thing about the topic that is familiar to us. And we all need to be a bit brave and have conversations with people that may not think like us, if for no other reason to understand someone's perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but at least you gain a better understanding and you do with it what you will. Maybe that enables you to think about a better way to have the conversation. But if you continue to remain in an echo chamber, there's no growth there. There's no opportunities there. And so that is something that I would recommend many corporate leaders in positions of power, they take the time to do those things. And that's why I wrote the book, for those leaders that are curious enough to pick up the book. It's an easy read. It's 15 actionable strategies. And there's also reflection questions where you can actually take a moment to answer the questions in the book and really talk about amongst yourself as corporate leaders about some of the things that may have come up for you in the book. And I'm sure that it'll help you to maybe think differently about DEI, but also implement and maybe even promote the DEI strategies that are in the book and have further conversations. Let's talk about these things in a way that is productive and not just polarizing.
Once again, listen, I'm Refocused Radio, watching this online, talking to our guest, Luaskya Nonon. She is the CEO and founder of Equity Principle Consulting. Get her book. It's a copy available just for you. If you just go visit wherever you find on the bookstore, it's coming out Monday. Embracing the Future of Work. Real easy to find. We'll have it on our website. I'm going to put on the website. And that way we can have more people tune in and what you're navigating yourself as a professional. So as a CEO, if you had last thoughts for our audience and our viewers, maybe a message of encouragement to leaders who are in the position of building an organization themselves and leading their employees, what would you want to say to them?
I would say stay curious, ask questions, have conversations. Don't just assume that you know what DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is. Don't assume that you know what your employees need in order to come to the workplace and do the job. And don't assume that you know what is best for your people. Have those conversations. Talk to people that don't look like you, that don't have the same shared lived experiences as you. Continue to be curious and don't fall prey to all of the politicized noise around DEI, because many of the things that you're hearing is not accurate. So be open to the possibility that what you believe to be true may not be true, and take some time to educate yourself and communicate with others. And pick up my book. It's one resource that I think will help you to maybe open up your mind about the ways in which you can create an inclusive workplace culture that prioritizes the humanity of your people and really supports them in a way that ultimately they desire, that they need, and ultimately gets you to where you want to be.
You might have started a new buzzword, DEI plus merits. You never know.
It's a whole thing. It's DEI. It's actually like a math problem. So it's DEI equals access plus merit, parentheses, minus privilege. That's what DEI is.
Well, I know I'm going to get some emails, but by the way, hey, thank you. Have a good day. It's Friday. Hopefully you enjoy the weekend. And like I said, on Monday, copy the book wherever they are sold. Amazon's probably the most popular one. Just go search Embracing the Future of Work. And like always, want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.